Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another week 2 of OverBOTCH, an amateur Overwatch League podcast. We have all gone through week 1, opening weekend of the league. It has been interesting, to say the least. Interesting results, interesting plays, rulings. We'll get into a lot of it, as well as some news coming out of our Open and Contenders division, which is new and interesting, and as well as a look ahead to next week and our upcoming match of the week. And finally, our punishment for, spoiler alert, all of us getting wrong our match of the week last week.
Okay, in our defense, I think we were all playing safe, but
we were, but I think we were also going the same route. 90% of talent and content creators and anybody who was doing tier lists and all that stuff. Power rankings.
I just copied what everybody else said.
Oh my God.
Semi-spoiler, Dante Tank. Nobody saw that
coming.
Don Tank. And so, without further, we're talking about it. Right. Let's get the banner up there. Initial takeaways. So for me, one, I loved seeing some things get thrown on their head. And I will also I will add my screen in here. So we can kind of have an overview of the results. And Don Tank, I remember, so I was at the Battle for Texas. I had a really great experience there. Got to hang out with a bunch of people, got to meet a bunch of people from the league. It was so cool to see things on LAN again, and like two teams competing on stage. This brand new building in San Antonio, this Techport Arena. Dude, they had Tesla coils that play music.
I saw those actually, yeah.
Yeah, and I think I might have shared one of them on online, and I'm going to be putting a little vlog thing out on YouTube. But it was like they literally at the end of the game they played the Overwatch League theme in Tesla coil, so it was like zip zap zooping and looking like it was going to strike lightning upon your face. Meanwhile, playing music, it was the wildest thing ever.
So they all, just a quick tangent here. Were they all sort of covered up, these Tesla coils, or were they completely exposed?
So like they're exposed, but like I think there was almost like this translucent or almost like grating sheeting. And so I'm not sure if it was like anti-static or whatever, so it didn't go out too far. Plus, I don't know if Tesla coils are necessarily like actual, is it like lightning, like electricity?
Oh, it'll kill you. Oh, it'll hurt you.
The reason they put a Faraday cage around that sort of thing.
Yeah. So
that's it. That's what it was.
Create the cage, and it hits the side
of
the cage, and it's grounded. Haven't you played Command and Conquer Red Alert? Come on, man.
The Tesla coil was
the coolest thing. That and then playing Dune and getting the spice.
Videos. I've watched Mythbusters and things like that, so I know a little bit about Tesla coils. So.
Yeah.
Yep.
But anyway,
and then there's that car. No, I'm kidding.
Yes.
I take it back. I did actually. You can do. Speaking of Tesla, and this is my last little quick diversion. You can actually go at the New Yorker Hotel, right when you're right at Madison Square Garden, like around MSG. That's where Tesla lived out at the end of days, and there's like a plaque for him. It's where he saw the laser pigeons. You know how he like talked to the pigeons, and he thought they had like laser eyes. So. Yeah, if you're ever in New York, you can actually go to the spot where he last lived, where Tesla last lived. It's just right on the corner, right above the TikTok cafe. And if you go there, get the club sandwich. It's really good. It's next to Hammerstein, so you probably would have been there. Like all the indie shows are there, right? So you're like right next to Hammerstein.
Of them are. I've never been to Hammerstein though.
Oh man. If only this was a wrestling podcast, I could tell you about how grungy and awesome it is.
I've seen the footage.
Yeah.
It's like New York's hometown was at Hammerstein Ballroom, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Really?
Yes, it was.
The NYXL homestand.
Yeah, they did it. Cool. They did it there. It's pretty cool. They it's just like one of those old school venues that I'm pretty sure once upon a time was a vaudeville venue. It had to be because it's got the full stage. It's in the right spot. But yeah, great diner next to it too.
Well, New Yorkers, you've been shot out. So so the initial thing. Man, initial takeaways. Is anything jump out? I mean, Don Tank, because again, I was there. Was wild. I don't know. I remember being backstage and they were like, we're not telling anybody what our opening lineup is. They even kept it. I didn't know this. So when they were scrimming in like the alpha and in the beta, I didn't realize when you scrim other teams, like in the pro level, they randomize their names.
Oh yeah. Oh
It's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
It's like player 5246. So you don't know who's playing Soldier, who's playing Doom, who's playing Orisa, etc.
It's like the way old school DJs were when they would soak their vinyls
cool.
in water so you couldn't see the tracks, because this way you couldn't know what the tune was.
Yeah.
Because you know, it was like a weapon, like Lethal Weapons. So for me, it was like seeing Dante and Hawk on Doom was like, one, we weren't sure who the other tank was going to be. We knew Winston was going to be there.
Right.
We weren't sure about the others. And like Doom is a very unique character, but it's pretty cool to see Dante and Hawk. I was like, those guys put in that work.
Yeah.
Tack visors, man. Holy cow. Those things were like sweeps.
I mean,
and I'm just gonna say, like, Hisu's little, like, when he capped the point for Defiant at King's Row. Like, just that's a classic thing that happens now. You get wiped out. And I love seeing Soldier do that, because it's kind of how I always had Soldier in my, I imagine what it would be like if you were a real, in the stories. The encirclement was ridiculous with Doom as a result. The verticality was off the charts.
Yes.
And everything was about spinning around those poor supports. Like when you saw an Ana getting punished, it's like the camera had trouble keeping up.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But
the pace is crazy.
And the narrow angles are weird. Like when Defiant couldn't get through that second point, I'm clearly biased here, but when they couldn't get through that second point.
Which match was this? Was this the
this
Sunday
was at King's Row, the Sunday, the Sunday match. And it was
Houston.
Like, yeah, and it was like all those chip shots you take down when you go like door through door down streets. I'm like, there's so much like, you're just, because you want that visor, you got to get that because it's an instant wipe. But it was weird because I'm learning how to rewatch the game now, because at spots where you'd keep two people on the point, three for the counter to go up faster, like they're still shooting down the hallway, just leave one person on the point. And I'm like, wait, this is confusing to me. But I'm like, oh yeah, they've mathed this out, because Doom clears so much goddamn space. And then last, I really hope they fix this on broadcast, because it's a real snafu in my eyes. But not having player names on the player cams is awful. Like, you're just randomly showing faces with no names.
That's
I'm like,
I never really noticed, to be honest.
That was something I noticed last year too, a little bit. I was
weird.
like, I'm like, come on. I'm like, yeah, please, just
you're like random guy out of 10.
File.
You're like random person out of 10. That's not helping me. I
think the reason why I don't pay attention to that is because I've been watching the league for so long. It's like, I know that's Dante, for example. That's fearless.
But most people, a lot of people, and especially if you're trying to bring in new viewers, you want them to get to know the players and everything like that. So I think, that is 100% something that just a little thing, right? Just a little thing.
Shadow's saying the player names are on the camera, but I can't see them. They're relying upon you looking on the bottom. On the bottom left. Well, shit. Well, thank you, Shadow. I mean, that's
there you go. Oh, speaking of Shadow,
so they're there. They're just very poorly done. Holy cow.
Maybe a little bit more prominent then. Yeah, absolutely.
I know you're looking
for us boomers who are blind and
I normally just go, okay, hey, I'll look at the top of the screen, like that top bar. That's normally what I do. And then I go, okay, they're looking at the Winston player. So
that's true too. Yeah, you can always look up at the players at the top as well. So would it be nicer, like, give me a Monday Night Raw style big banner.
Yeah, I just want giant face.
I want their damn Twitter handle.
This player,
the Echo play, man, was super cool.
Echo,
because I wasn't sure. We don't know what's gonna happen outside the main. I think we got the core down right.
I mean, Soldier Genji seems to be
obvious, but Tracer.
DPS
I'm just saying, like, was it Nero looked great, in his games, and I'm like,
thanks.
But like what I'm saying, exactly. But it was really wild though, because like they were like, and Pelican was a beast at times. It just seemed like when they like drop down and they're already shooting that stupid little echo beam that drains your life force, like, it's got the power of Satan. That was intense, but it was really, really cool to see that happen. And then but it was the Doomfist play that we're starting to see at least what this stage will look like. I'm just curious what patches will come in, because I saw that they just put a patch note through, which is that Winston's snipe shot, it's going to take up less ammo load. So they're actually letting him shoot even more. So
and we don't know when, because I did clarify, because I was asking him, like, are that patch was released literally on like Thursday, I think.
Yeah.
It had the Zen super kick in it and everything like that.
Yeah. The Zen boop.
Yep. But the league is not on that one yet. I don't think they'll even be on that one next week. I think it'll probably
follow the same sort of patch formula. They typically change patches at each stage.
Yeah,
So
we'll probably see they'll even depending, they might patch it 2-3 times, but we probably won't see it till the next stage. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like the biggest. So I think we all expected Soldier based on like our just initial thoughts and everything like that. Were there any like surprise? One thing, I guess it didn't really surprise me, especially after talking to a lot of again at the event I was at, talking to a lot of the pros there, the casters and stuff like that. But after the beta came out, Orisa, with all her work and as fun as she's been and as much playtime I've seen her get in the beta, I believe, was a 0 pick rate. Entire weekend.
Yeah. So we talked about this, right? I said everyone's like, "Oh, Rissa's definitely in." I'm like, actually, no.
You made it. Yes,
no.
You called that one
because she can't. Here's the thing: the entire game now is played off of extreme verticality and entrance and exit, which Orisa can't do. She's really good if you play the game like Overwatch 1. She's really not that useful if you do not play that way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
So because Orisa had a very set play style for a number of years, like put down shield, everyone hides behind it, and then take shots.
Yeah.
With this version of Orisa, you can't really do that.
And she would get shredded by a good Soldier and Genji. Like it doesn't matter what she does, and that's what I think is interesting too is people would say, "Oh, but when Winston dives, she can spear her." I'm like, "Yeah, but Doomfist can punch, and his cooldowns are faster."
Like,
yes.
And when you look at how the comp's been built, I mean, I predicted Ana Lucio's backline. Every hero in that composition can benefit from Ana's nano boost.
Exactly.
Winston benefits. Genji, we all know the history of Genji nano boosts and things like that.
Yep.
Soldier benefits. So every hero, I mean, even when they went into the off meta picks, like the Winston, the Doomfist, the Echoes, every hero could play with Ana very well.
Oh, it was the weekend of Nano Visor, Nano
Blade.
Oh,
but you know what was awesome though? I loved seeing the Briggs come out on some of the defensive plays, right? Against when they weren't sure what to do with the Dooms. Just gonna say it was really cool to see. I still think, again, I'm biased a little bit, but Toronto closing out the map against Houston, you saw exactly what you do on teams that are reliant on Doom, because that's the other thing too, right? The teams are using Doom. I have a theory. I can't prove it, so it's complete conjecture. But I feel like you went with Doom because you can't really go Winston. That's my feeling. I just have this feeling where it's like I'm not saying that they're unable to play a Winston. I'm saying that they're better with Doom. So you just go that because he displaces, and you get out. And that's what I think is really interesting, though, is you saw at the end of that game where there's such a reliance on Doom creating that space, but Dante got shredded at the end. Yeah. Like Hisu obliterated that team. Like they took some time. So it's not that I'd love to say Toronto's great, and I think they did really well, but I think the way the games went will very much change what we're about to see this upcoming week, because everyone showed their hand, and there were Doom teams and there were Monkey teams, and I love that, man. There's when was the last time we had 2 styles? Like you got styles of
primary metas.
Dude, it is super cool. It's super cool. I'm super excited, and I was quite frankly, I haven't even touched Overwatch 2 since we played last, Matt. I haven't.
You mentioned those comps. I mean, London Spitfire, they predominantly played Reinhardt comps.
Yes. I was going to talk about Hottie's Reinhardt, which was pretty Chad-tastic this week.
It was actually awesome, man. And that's the cool thing. There's room for style. So, me, I was pretty bearish on a lot of how this could go. Seeing that people I was root bearish on how this could go. But now seeing this, if you can come up with styles, the thing that's going to make this game is styles of play. It's what I don't like about the concept of the meta. I want there to be at least a few options.
Yeah,
I lived through the New Jersey Devils neutral zone trap when they mastered and perfected and broke hockey. I lived through that. It sucked because they basically used the rules of the game to they were better at basically staying within the rules and killing the puck movement. They changed the rules of the game because of them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yikes.
Because it would have. Yeah. It was really, really bad for anyone who remembers. And I hate that about esports, that the max min approach to things leads to like one style of play. But this was the first time we saw something different. We know it'll centralize a bit, but by virtue of them having made Winston one of the main tanks, he's such a weird tank to use. Like, people are either like they can do it or they can't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think, but there's a viable option against them. So you just have to choose. And now having only one tank means you have to choose a style. And I'm like, this is one of those unintended things that happened, I think. I don't think this was planned. I think someone will take credit for it. But I think it is something new, and I'm super excited. But there's a cool question. Any thoughts and insight on the broadcast? I was thinking this too, Bert. Any thoughts or insight on the broadcast challenges, like the lag and the video glitches and the things that we've been seeing? Oh, wow. You can highlight shit.
Yeah. So I can.
Tough things.
All right. We're not PG around here. This is ECW. Anyway. But yeah, we can. If there's, I'll keep an eye out for any prominent questions, stuff like that. That's a fair one. I mean, I think. Yeah, the NA stream. The funny thing is, if you went to the Korean streams on those opening days, they were pretty immaculate. They were pretty.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Cool.
I remember I saw that from somebody on Twitter. So you can always check out an alternative regions streams.
Okay.
But NA was having some issues. They worked them out by day 2 for the most part. Like I remember day 2 lagged a little bit at the beginning, but then they picked it up pretty well after that. So I don't know. I just chalk it up to opening week. Server jitters and stuff like that.
Sorry, go ahead, Max.
Especially with a new game like Overwatch 2, people are going to be piling in. It's like, oh, I want to see the new stuff. I want to see the new stuff, kind of thing like that.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, I actually looked at the viewership. It was like 90 to 100,000 on day 1.
And it stayed like 60 to 80 throughout the weekend for the primary games.
It was.
The amount of traffic was insane.
I was really happy to see that the Toronto Houston game was still floating around like 70, 76, 68. Like, but these are decent numbers. Now, again, opening weekend.
Right.
I'm really curious to see how this hangs on. You know, I think there was a lot of curiosity around the game in the league. And I'm certain, you know how it is. Yeah. There's always those people who are like, I'm going to watch it and say bad things about it because I got nothing else to do today. Like, you know, I'm like, no, but it went better than I thought it would. Yeah. And I'm a kind of cynical, pessimistic person for certain things, but I thought the emergence of styles, or at least testing of styles, is good. And they've been in scrims long enough to have tested these styles. That's what I think is really cool. This wasn't like no one's played. We just loaded it for the first time. They have been going through this. My main takeaway though from all of this was I just feel bad for Aspire. I want him to be on a better team, but
I know. Yeah.
But he busted out the Sojourn, right? If I recall correctly.
Yes.
Right. So props to Aspire.
Yep.
He gave it. I think he was the only player who did it. So props to Aspire for just giving it a shot. You know.
Yeah, and I think I understand why he did it though, because in that there was King's Row, and they were attacking, and they were dealing with a Reinhardt composition from London Spitfire.
Yes.
So my guess was it was Sojourn to try and get past Hardy's shield as much as possible.
Yes, and I liked the thinking. I only watched tidbits because, you know, I'm obliged to not like Vancouver as a city and a culture.
I know we went through that last week.
Oh yes. Those you listened last week will know what we're on about.
Yeah. No, but realistically though, like I thought it was pretty cool. I thought and you know, look, Dallas got beaten up by Houston, but maybe they hadn't quite. It just felt like they hadn't solved. You know what? It felt like they hadn't fully addressed the Doomfist equation. But
I think they just got. Honestly, I think they got thrown. I think they
got thrown. But the thing is, let's wait till the next week, right? Because now they've gone through it.
Yep.
And that's what they're going to be working on. And I also love that, man. That this is a league where you kind of know what they're going to be working on. They're going to be fixing a couple things, and like. This is the benefit of a new game. It doesn't feel so rote right now. And it's not that all the rules are unwritten. It's that you can sort of see where each of these teams kind of have to improve and what their path can be, unless you're Vancouver.
Yeah.
Or London in general. They had we'll see.
London looked pretty decent.
Yeah.
London was so that was going to be kind of my next like who are teams and or players who defied some expectations from you?
Muse, man, Muse, our tank on Toronto, dude. I know, you know what? He gives me that Yakpung vibe where it's like, yeah, okay, that might have been a bit of weird misplay. He got left out of position a couple times. That's a very Toronto Tank thing to do. Yakpung always did this, but
they had a rough match with Washington. I bet
correct.
Muse was getting bullied a lot.
Out of it was out of he got caught in those funny corners, right?
Yeah.
But when he was on against Houston, oh, dude, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. And these are a lot of new names. And then I think you know, it's interesting. Like, you know, Finale did pretty well too. I think there's like inconsistency, but I was really happy on that side. No, truth be told, I only watched really the Toronto and New York games closely. And I think New York is doing better than what a lot of people thought they would. I think they thought they were going to be awful.
New York was one of those ones that jumped out to me, even though they had a rough weekend results wise. But I still remember that first game right up here that 1-3 to the Gladiators. But I remember map 1, the control map was like very close. I think they went 1-1.
They were in the game,
and then I mean the last one it was like 90 to 100.
Yeah.
It was close. It was not a runaway. And then the map they took, that push on Circuit Royale, I remember watching because I was at work too, and I kind of kept coming back to it. And it was halfway through. I'm like, all right, they're done, right? They're done. But man, Yaki's echo play came through clutch. That's where you were talking about it. And I was very, very shocked when they even got that map off. So they looked much more contentious than I expected.
Yeah. So once they got to the final point, like that little last bit, they really did stabilize.
Yeah.
And I think once teams learn how to stabilize more effectively, we might see more different results.
I think everybody had Shock as like fine. Nobody had him like at bottom of the barrel, but I think they outperformed what a lot of people thought as well with the kind of brand new roster. I think everybody, of course, was expecting Proper. I don't think people expected a ton out of Kaluge, but I thought he did really, really well. And I think I thought Sam did really well.
Oh yeah.
Again, out of that DPS line, I think he was the one people are kind of like, we'll see, whatever. But I think he kind of earned his spot there too.
Because the O2 Blast players, rightfully so, will get all the attention. But Sam just flew under the radar when he got started. Like, who's this guy? And then he just turns up again. He goes, "This is who I am."
Yeah.
But I mean, I will say another player that caught my eye was Merritt on Houston Outlaws.
Yeah, man.
He seemed like okay. It's like he had a confidence in that he knew what he could do.
Yeah. Everybody talking about, going into the season, even before we knew about the Doom tank situation, everybody was, it's Dante Pelican. That's your starting lineup. And I think that was one thing when I was sitting there live watching the game, and I'm like, everybody on Houston, especially that first day, that Friday, that Battle for Texas game, almost everybody on the team had those pop-off moments. Oh, we didn't even mention, speaking of which, the big one, I think it was it Iris, which by the way, it's not Iris. He wants everybody to know it's Iris. Was it Iris or Lastro who hit that sleep on a Nano Genji?
It was Iris because Lastro was playing Lucio.
That's it. Yes. So man, I think it was Sparkles Genji.
Yeah, Sparkles Genji, and it was the sleep dart plus coach gun from Merritt that sent him flying. I was like, whoa.
It was beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of players that really did catch my eye. I mean, putting on my Mayhem hat for a second.
Yeah.
Checkmate
showed up to work.
Brilliant. Because last year, when I looked in Kookie's team from last year, we'll call it, I just thought to myself, he's too passive on his Tracer and Genji when I saw him play that. I mean, yes, we all know about his Reinhardt, things like that.
Sure.
Seeing him under the gun bar system, he looks a lot better. Because, as I said last week, my concern was whether or not the team would be able to integrate like aggressive players and more passive players. But it looks like Gunbar's got them playing a unified style.
Yeah.
And it's really fun to watch because they're not sort of jumping in for no reason or anything like that. They're jumping in with purpose.
And
everything they do has a purpose.
And that's one thing
to watch.
Yeah. That's one thing I've heard about Gunba is, we talk about like that, whatever, I guess we can just kind of hashtag it with his, that Moneyball style, whatever you want to call it. But he, what it breaks down to is from a lot of people I've talked to kind of in the industry is that he's really, really keen on you stick the player to what they do best. kind of it's kind of like screw the meta, screw what like it's like if you're the greatest brig in the world, even if meta is Lucio Ana, if this map you do your brig, you go out there and like we're gonna play that. That said, who approved the hog pick? I mean, I guess it's week one. It's worth a try.
Hey, I'm just saying, like Toronto, we did a great hog shot to the face on Dante's Doomfist.
Yeah, exactly.
Gibraltar.
But quickly on Gunbar, one thing I think should be pointed out that I believe it was last year he was coaching in Valorant, and you can actually see when you watch Mayhem back, you can actually see the Valorant-esque play style. They're making sure they keep cover and things like that.
Yeah,
like they're playing the corners. It's really interesting to watch from that sort of standpoint.
Well, you've got to, because I mean, especially from with less shields. I mean, your DPS have to do it, and your supports especially. There's less protection out there. Yeah, you got to use your cover, use your angles.
Yeah. Okay. So, Richard, I'm going to throw this one to you. Yeah, it's all right. Let's go on. Of all the players that you saw play for Toronto, who stood out for you?
Good question.
Because for me, on Mayhem, it was Checkmate. So I'll let you think about Toronto.
That's hard.
Man, I'll tell you, I thought you mentioned. I thought Hisu popped the hell off this.
You know what it was? Yeah. See, that's a challenge because we had our ups and downs.
Right? Lots of ones and ones this weekend.
Inconsistencies, it's going to happen, right? Because it's the first round. I would say when he was on point, Hisu was obliterating people. He was clearing people out. So but the thing is, I expected that from Hisu.
Yeah,
I figured Hisu could do that. For me, it was actually seeing Muse really hold it down on tank because you're just not sure how it's going to go, and I thought it went really well. That was it for me.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Matt, question to you. Same thing again, but for Houston Outlaws, because I know you were in their camp at the weekend.
Yes, I was there.
Who was the Houston Outlaws player that stood out?
I have no loyalty.
They bought you. They bought you.
They bought me a plane ticket.
It's like Money Inc. or something, or like IRS. $1 million. You're part of the $1 million.
I know you're not officially a Houston fan, but I'm just throwing the same question to you, but for Houston Outlaws.
Yeah, no. And you know what? I will say this after being like, and this is where some of the emotion and stuff comes in. I think sometimes that's hard with esports, with it being so kind of separate and a lot of it played online and everything. It's we miss that. That's why we miss live events. It's that feeling of being in the baseball field, right? Like it gives you that a little bit of something. So being there, I definitely became even more of I was already like a fan of a lot of the players on Houston and stuff like that, but being there and seeing that particular game, which was a very surprising result and everything, it was just a very cool experience. Their fan supporter, and we're not going to get into this tangent. We'll save it for another week, Richard, but we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
About with the flawed, admittedly, franchise system that's involved with the Overwatch League, some of the best teams do that community kind of outreach because, I don't know, a lot of these teams, they're from Philly, but they play in Korea, or they're from England, but they play in Texas. And like, it's weird where they're everything is as far as locality. But Houston have done a really good job with their local supporters groups and like,
Lone Star Vanguard, they were the second in the league.
Yep.
So mad props to that crew, of which some of them went off to start off AOE Creative, who do a lot of stuff with Overwatch League.
Yes. And they showed up, and like, it was cool to see like the fervor there and everything. But anyway, getting back to Plex's question, that's tough. I think I want to say like my gut initially just goes to Dante jumping into that tank role because even though he's a Dynamite Doomfist player, which is why they did that. But he's also like, I'm going to pull that one because he's experienced. He was ready. I mean, even seeing the post show Q&A, he was very confident and ready to jump into that role. So for my money, it's Merritt stepping into there, rookie on the team, stepping in there with, a role star, or I think was the MVP, was it Pelican or Rookie of the Year?
Rookie of the Year,
Rookie of the Year, and then you got this Dante's your other DPS that you're jumping in. It's you got Piggy on the team, you got Lastro, Iris, like a lot of these guys with some pretty great accolades.
Yeah,
it can be intimidating. And Merritt had his pop off moment. So he was very. I think he played well in his first game in the Overwatch League.
Yeah,
so that's what kind of stood
out to me. Was great. It was awesome to see.
I love seeing that.
And also Lastro flexing over to main support. he looked like he got out of place.
Yeah. Yeah. There was a lot of people who were forced to do that. And it was very cool to see. But so now, ladies and gentlemen,
here we go.
We have we mentioned a little bit earlier. We were talking about them. I asked the team to avoid this until we can get to now. But ladies and gentlemen,
dangerous criminals,
Florida Mayhem, the criminals on the loose, or 10,000 IQ. So before we get into it, let's take a look at Florida Mayhem. Obviously, for the TLDR, at the beginning of a Circuit Royale attack push, used an illegal maneuver and were forced to later on restart that round. Before we even break it out, let's take a look at the play in question. So we have a Maywall on the roof and then a TP dive over obliteration, which was so cool to watch as a fan. I will say it first and foremost. It was very, very cool to watch. Bravo for the creativity. I'm sorry. Rules are rules. Fine, and we'll get into it. But bravo for the creativity. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. So all right, I'll jump in. But initial thought, Plex, you do the Mayhem chord. So I'll give me your initial thoughts, reactions.
Okay, so I was in the watch party we were doing in the Discord, and everybody's immediate reaction was, "What on earth?" And we just thought to ourselves, "Wow, that's amazing!" And literally, we were like the chat, was like 900 IQ. Let's do this and things like that. We get to the completion, and then we get the news like, "Oh, we have to redo our attack." Like, wait, what?
So we what? We did it.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people. There were those that were like, "Oh, Mayhem are going to be salty." We were more confused about like, okay, you said this is illegal, but yet you've let other things fly in the past. And it thinks to itself, and the common question among us was, what if this was the San Francisco Shock or the Dallas Fuel, one of the bigger name teams, rather than just Mayhem, who are a mid-table team?
That's true, and that's fair. Like, I don't know if that. I mean, that's all. The only issue I have with that idea is like that's just very presumptive. Like, you're assuming that they wouldn't do that to San Francisco. I get why, because like, would they do that to Dallas? Would they do that to Shanghai, etc.? But if we don't have, you have to. I think that's a little presumptive. But I understand. The feeling behind it.
Matt, I feel like you're one of those guys who really thought the LA Kings deserved to beat the Maple Leafs in '93.
You just spoke French to me. I don't know what any of that means.
Anyone who knows hockey will know that these things can and will be done.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Right, because Gretzky wrote, because who wants to see a final with the Canadians and the Leafs when you're in the middle of an expansion movement? It is a thing. I do put weight with this. I think it could happen.
Yeah. But I think one thing I will say, okay, so there are 3 plays from OverBOTCH League history that, in theory, could have flouted this rule. I don't know if, Matt, you could bring up the ruling on the screen for our video watchers.
Which one is it?
Because the one that Gunbar tweeted. But I mean, the 3 plays that came to mind was last year, Striker on the Shock getting Maywall boosted onto that Oasis.
Yes, I remember a lot of people mentioning that.
That could have been called up. You also had, in 2019, I'm not sure, Richard, you might remember this, the DeFran grab on Hollywood.
Yeah, when he went over the top and he boosted himself. Yeah.
There's
Shock with the bastion on the chandelier.
Yeah, there's that as well.
Yeah.
And the other example I'm thinking of is on Havana. It was in stage 4 of 2019 when Washington Justice, ironically, were playing Florida Mayhem. They set up with a Fire Mercy composition. It's like a spawn hold on Havana point A. They put the Farah above the Havana attackers' spawn. So even with a hit scan like a McCree or a Widowmaker, you couldn't hit him because they could just pop over the other side. I think to myself, surely that isn't legal.
Yeah.
And then Matt, obviously, he's got the infamous Eigenvald play as well.
Yeah.
Exact same maneuver.
And I know
Meta Athena did it in Apex as well.
Take a watch right here. Maywall on the roof, jump right over to point.
So it's a question of 2 points from my perspective, this is me not just as a Mayhem fan, but as a league fan as well. First point, why do it now when you clearly, as you can see on screen, let things like this slide before? And secondly, if you don't want teams doing that, why don't you put an invisible wall up there?
So that is what drives me crazy, because like no known exploits. It is not an exploit if the map is open. That's like saying, oh, you used an exploit, you know, when the doors opened, you shot through them.
Yeah.
Seriously, like this is like here's
like,
the crazy
Doomfist
thing.
rollouts pretty much rely on
exactly. And the thing is, from an Overwatch perspective, you would think that, you know what? When was the game? When did the game get created? Overwatch 1, what, 2017?
2016, I believe. Yeah.
Okay.
2016
You would think by then they would know that maybe, just maybe, you should put up a wall when you don't want people to go through something.
So here's the one thing. And it's
I'll
not
say
an exploit.
It's an open space.
Agree.
It's not an exploit. That is an open space. An exploit would be if there is an unintended, right? An unintended result that is outside of the engine, the system of design.
Yeah.
But the way that has been built, it has purposely been left open. It is an open spot. Like the same way that you can shoot nades over things, or you could throw the rocks from Sigma into the spawn of Dorado. Like, I'm not like, it doesn't get you anything, you know, but the point is it's open. Like, I don't know.
And I think it should be noted that with the Mayhem play, the attacking ground, they didn't have it all their own way. It wasn't like they just steamrolled Paris. There were times where Paris did hold them on that first attack. So it wasn't like they were steamrolling off the back of that play. It was literally, after that point, it was a very competitive match. It was just that sort of stood out.
Yeah.
No, so Bert's got a good point. He says, well, don't you think this is a little different since the game's in development? Like, it's a new map. They could be putting an invisible wall there. Absolutely. But they haven't put those invisible walls anywhere else. Those invisible walls don't exist in Hollywood. Those they laud plays that, you know, when you're in a chandelier as a bastion, and we think that's good. I think in the end, here's the thing. I think the problem is, and not that I have anything against Paris, I think they've got a wonderful supporters club. Much love to Rooster Club. They are super awesome. I always thought Paris had a super weird team announcement video, but I won't go into that. No, there's reasons why it was very weird, but I won't touch it. But I think they chose the rule book. And if everyone says, oh, it was discussed, I'm like, no. Discussed? This is a league. This is a competition. Like, I feel like someone brought it up. And then in a pinch, they're like, yeah, we should redo it so it doesn't raise the question right now.
Well, what I've heard, I mean, I think Avala tweeted this, who's Paris' team manager. Apparently, other teams questioned what was going on before Paris did. So it wasn't Paris themselves who initially made the complaint,
which is fine, and like that's neither. Yeah, and I kind of get that. It's to me, it's more. So this is apparently Gunba. This is the tweet you're talking about.
That's the rule.
That's the rule. No exploits of known bugs includes roof surfing, Doomfist on Midtown, or any other. See this,
but that's a bad rule. Like all roofs, or like if they said roof surfing, all roof surfing, incredibly do they mean roof surfing when it is specifically Doomfist in Midtown? Because roof surfing in and of itself is not a bug, or if it is, then they got to really fix the engine of the game.
But that's so. A bunch of other players came forward that you can't Doomfist surf on any roof. So that's just an example in the rule here. But like apparently, if you do that on Rialto, it's illegal as well.
So, Mortal Man, look at that comment right there. So let's bring that one up, because I think that's a great point. My view is, what about heroes like Farah? Isn't her point to be able to go over stuff? They can't just keep putting up walls.
Right. So here's my answer to. I think this is what they're trying to have the best of both worlds, because they have certain heroes who on their own have the ability, your Farahs, your Echoes, things like that, who can be your over the top, or maybe, you know, in certain situations, even the Winston, the dive over something tall like that, like a high hitbox kind of area. I think the idea in the developer's mind and the league's mind, the idea is like, yes, in those individual hero cases, that's what they're designed for. So you got to be able to look up and have your hit scan ready to go. But the idea of being able to send your whole team in some kind of thing like that maybe feels like it's a little bit. I think I agree with you, but the bigger point to me is this: it is so vague.
They're bad at writing. Let's be honest here. This is not a rule.
That's my issue.
This is what gets tournament operators and TOs and everyone who does community pugs. This kind of rule is what gets people into so much trouble, and that a league and a competition has been written off something that is barely interpretable as English is appalling. Like, this is, who writes a rule like this? Like, nobody would write a rule like this. But what I think is, honestly, this is the bigger thing, though, is that outside of this, if some teams are saying, well, that's not allowed, and they were even, let's just go with it. Let's go with the rationale here. They're saying other teams said they knew that this couldn't be done. Okay. If Florida's like, we didn't know about that, that just shows how bad the internal communication around what the constraints of the game are. And that is a bigger concern for me.
Yes.
Because we cannot have a culture of rule booking at the top tier. Like, rule booking is there for like the average small tournament because we expect that in tier 2, 3, 4, and whatever else. But if we get into this level of poor communication, lack of understanding, and the inability to come up with consensus for play, it's going to keep coming up because they're playing off of a beta. This will come up again. Yeah. But I think in the end, I think it's just really cheesy that someone would even rule book it like tough or take the map out of rotation if you knew this was a problem. But if you knew that it wasn't going to be a problem because it was clearly explained, which it wasn't, then the map is allowed. But what you have here is just an absolute failure from a league management perspective. It's on the league. It has nothing. I don't blame any team or any player. This is 100% on who's setting up the games and communicating with teams and players. I can only imagine how bad the information is for them.
I mean, for me personally, I've got nothing against the ruling itself. I can accept that. It's the lack of historical consistency.
Yes.
Okay, between us,
Estoppel, my friends. Estoppel.
It's between the three of us. We've named 4 examples that could have potentially flouted this rule, and nothing was done about it. It's only now.
I agree with that.
It's like the best way I can put it is
and they celebrated it too, Plex. That's the thing. We celebrated these rules, and now it's bad. Why is it bad? Because you used it against Paris.
The best way I can put it is, let's say you have a referee refereeing 2 matches in whatever sport. Let's say hockey, just to keep it with Richard's knowledge. So let's say you have the same referee for 2 matches in a row, and they're different teams. The referee pulls a player up for a foul in one match, doesn't pull him off in the second. Exact same style of incident. And that's what I feel like right now. It's like you waived these previous incidents with the same referees, essentially, only to pull them up now.
Yep.
Because I'm assuming the referees have been the same all over the years.
Yeah, I would imagine as well. I agree. I think the biggest issues are the consistency in the enforcement and the vagueness of the writing. I mean, this reminds me of those contracts like that you see where like basically like, all right, so like we have your image controlled for in like all universes for all time, all examples. It's just like just anything. It's just anything. That's what this reads to me. Is it's just like any known or unknown exploits. Like, okay, what if it's unknown? How do we know it's an exploit and not just a maneuver?
Well, that's the thing. The fact that they wrote if it's unknown,
what is an unknown? But
they have not
exploit?
Defined what an exploit is. This is honestly, like, this is the crappiest writing I've ever seen of a rule. Like, we write better rules than this, and we spend more time on this than like when we did like Defiant community tournaments, because rule booking happens. But the fact that this like you have to define what an exploit is, not say no exploits of a bug. You have to define what it is. Is it a bug that there is no, like, think about it this way. If open space above a building is a bug, that means no buildings can have open space above them.
Yeah, which basically would negate Fire and Echo's ability to get, I mean, like Rialto, for example.
Yeah.
Fire hiding in the courtyard.
Rialto doesn't work as a map anymore. That's why, honestly, this whole thing, to me, it just didn't make any sense. Whether or not it was a rule or not, or it even lives up to the spirit of what was discussed, it doesn't even make sense, because what they're describing is a central facet of the game. It's like getting mad because we used a puck in hockey. I'm like, yeah, that's how you play the game. Like, I just, and exactly what Plex said. I don't know. I just think it's weird, but again, rule booking at Overwatch League could, but again, Bert, great comment. He goes, Overwatch League, Overwatch Season 6. coaches challenge rule like the NFL.
Yeah.
And actually, to be fair, I think that is an awesome way to manage rule booking. I've always thought that is good. You're allowed to challenge on the rules and the measurement, and you go to the VAR. Well, VAR is a bad example because it seems to always screw up.
Thanks. We just got
VAR.
that recently.
But you can do it. It's done a lot, right? You can challenge, but I think that makes sense. You just limit it, right? And why not? If you're not sure, have it there, and then you create this concept of you can allow rules to be interpreted, but all rules are policy, and you need consistency in application. Otherwise, how can you develop a strategy around how the game works mechanically if the rules of what are legal mechanics are constantly being changed on you?
Yeah,
I agree with that.
And I hope they figure this out because Doomfist is clearly going to be in the game.
Yep.
Yeah.
They better figure this out real fast.
It's going to be an important part of it.
As I said earlier, it's a case of a lot of Doomfist rollouts are based off of hugging that 1 pixel.
Yep.
To get that extra speed boost.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay. But I mean, just to close this one out, I think we can all agree that the lack of consistency and it's like you could have solved that yourself beforehand. I think we can agree on that.
Yeah.
Those couple of points.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they had the opportunity to say, okay, we're going to put some invisible barrier up there to make sure you can't do that. But also just better communication as well.
To me, it's not even about the barrier, because then you limit. My only thing about that is then you limit if they are still okay with, you know, a Farah flying over or Winston jumping over. Like if they're okay with the idea of like arcing the building or whatever. Like if you put a ceiling there, you take that out. And so my thing is then because I went and tried it, and you can't put a sim TP on the roof, right? You just can't do it. You look up. Yeah, you just look up, you can't do it. They just need to put a thing where you can't put a Maywall up there then. That's what it is. You need to make that if that's the exploit, then you just edit that out. Keep the high ceiling so you can still dive over it or whatever if you're able to do that. But if that's the big thing, then you need to limit, just like you do with sim TPs, limit where you can put Maywalls and to the same thing. That's the fix in my head.
Like a maximum range sort of thing.
Why not?
Maximum range, and then and you can slanted surfaces are not allowed. Kind of thing. I don't know. It's we're not developers, but
I mean, here's the thing. In the end, you know, they won anyway. So
they did.
Good guys won in this case.
4-1, baby. No, and like that's it's a silly little thing, but like at the same time that could throw and piss off a lot of teams to the point where they're shaken. But I do respect them for saying, okay, screw it, let's do it. And then not only that,
they beat the tar out of them. They beat the tar out of them anyway.
They have called a memeing on it the entire time. I was like, they put down a Maywall, illegal maneuver. They did use primary rage. Illegal maneuver. We were literally just memeing about it the entire match.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's awesum. I'm really happy to hear that
we took it in good spirit.
The community took it in good spirit. That's the most important thing.
We were sort of like a bit miffed.
Before we move on to our next topic, there is one. I'm like, there's also part of me that secretly hopes and prays. I kind of tweeted about it, like maybe they did know about it and they did it anyway, just to get a little spice going, a little bit, a little heat, a little talk of the town kind of thing. Hey, man, attention! You bring some more fans, sell a little bit more merch, you know, to get people talking.
You say that after the ruling was delivered, Mayhem tweeted out 1,000 likes and we do it again.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Saw that.
Get that attention. You got to get over. Sometimes you got to it takes a little heat to get over. That's something I've learned in my business. So maybe
heel turn.
Maybe again, not for sure, but maybe. So, but moving on to our next and last major topic of the day. Richard brought this to our attention, and I think it's worth talking about. There's some issues here. I think there are some. I think this is one of those ideas that comes from it's a positive idea with poor execution. I think the idea was supposed to be like, oh, cool, we're going to open this up. And because it's always, you know, everybody who knows Overwatch esports, both on the pro and contenders level, it's very tightly controlled. And unlike a lot of other open esports. So we're going to talk about the contenders and open division issues. It stems a lot from, let me pull it up, this article.
There we go.
Here. And the I have not gotten every single detail here, but it seems like the TLDR is that they are introducing an open division where any teams of 5 can compete and potentially become part of the Contenders system. But there's some issues. So, Richard, I'll let you jump off this one and let us know what you're thinking.
Yeah, thank you. So, open division, right? It's the third tier, right? As you kind of battle your way through, try to get to Contenders trials, try to get to Contenders, and then ideally try to get to Overwatch League as a player, since there's no promotion from Contenders to Overwatch League, etc. But that aside, here's what's weird: they are running open division on Overwatch 1.
Has it? Yep, highlighted right here.
Okay. And then based off of the teams that qualify, you get into the Contenders Summer Series and you play on Overwatch 2. So, couple problems right off the bat. One, let's just get to the basics. You need a roster of 6 and set up a team. And let's just say you're really competitive, right? You've got to set up a system to get really good at Overwatch 1 just to get to a tournament.
To make to the top 32.
To get rid of one of your players, because whoever that second tank is, peace. You got to get rid of them. Just to play a game with a completely different objective, skill requirements, etc.
Now, I mean, in theory, you don't have to get rid of them, though, right? I mean, because a lot of players
at
our level.
Yeah, but the thing, though, is you're not playing because you're going from 6 players to 5. Somebody's not playing.
Right, but can I imagine it would be like the pros where it's like, hey, maybe this map we have so-and-so flip in for tank.
Yeah, but that's when you're paid. That's when you're like paid for things and you're making some money. You're not a bunch of kids and young or folks who are doing things because they're trying to make it.
Thank you. I mean, that was going to be my issue. Yep.
They're trying to do these things where it's like, okay, so you're playing cricket because you're going to play baseball. I'm like, okay. But then there's the other issue, which is that the requirements around the games are fundamentally different. Right? Now, they have a rule that says you must retain 3 of your 5, which is already a confusing rule, speaking of rules. Because when you say you must retain 3 of your 5, you mean you have to retain 3 of your original 6, not 3 of your 5. It's 3 of your 5 players must be from your previous roster, which means they're already assuming these teams are going to come in to sub people out altogether. So you've built a culture where you're already saying you got to put in hours of time because you might be seen. It even says you might be noticed by scouts in the Overwatch League. I hate that kind of emotional overture. I think it's needlessly baiting and taking advantage of people's good nature and hopes and dreams. Yes. But you're saying, I'm going to have a team of 6 people, of which only 3 of them must be retained. So I'm actually expecting people to do this just because you're going to be let go? Do they really think this is going to create a healthy culture around the system where you're creating a complete feast or fire setup, right? With teams that are being run by independents where we know there are cultural problems. How many harassment issues and really generally bad behavior have we seen? We're talking about a league that's like, oh yeah, we're going to open things up, make things accessible. And their solution was to create a system that means you have to throw out not just your strat, but actual players. And on top of that, if you are a competitive team, it means you now have to sit and come up with a really good strat for Overwatch 1, a game that nobody's playing anymore, and then have another set strat for OW2. You're doubling the carrying requirements for people around this game. That is very hard to do. So you're asking people to do all the work for you, figure out your solution, because maybe, just maybe, you're going to go to Summer Series and get your ass kicked by people who've been playing on the beta for the whole time because they're the only ones with the access.
Yeah, with the contenders.
So you're going to make it in just to get your ass kicked. So it's a squash match. That's their solution when everyone's been saying we need better support around developmental because we're burning a ton of hours. We have no tournaments. We can create no financial viability. We're not allowed any real sponsors. Community licenses are limited by how many events you can run at a certain amount of money. Oh, but now the big gift from the league is that we're going to give you a tournament built off a game that's not even part of the competitive scene anymore, just so you can go through the stress of having to carry through all the fallout from the problems we have from playing on a beta. Just play the damn the tournament. Put the open division on the beta, or don't have a season.
It seems like they're trying to their answer to an open division, which is, you know, the idea being behind it being like, and this is your chant. This is open to it's open to anybody, and like it's 4 groups of friends to an amateur esports organization who's just fledgling, but they're like you said, I think they're treating it.
Then disconnect them.
Like it's like you have to operate it like an owl team where it's like, oh, we're gonna hire players, and no, then you drop players, and it's like these are like fucking 4 friends from high school or whatever. Where I'm like, yeah, like you have to go through this whole kind of convoluted process.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think then switching midway through your journey from one game, which is fundamentally different, to another, and like you said, dropping like
imagine having to be like imagine working on booking and matches in wrestling. Let's take a wrestling context. And you had to go from 6 sides to 4 sides in the middle of a match.
Yeah.
Nothing you've done can work on the geometry anymore. The maps they will compete in don't even exist in this game. This makes no sense. Just make the open division its own thing and then show it love, show it support, make it something special and memorable, make it a wonderful experience for people. Disconnect them, don't have it, or put it on the beta. But don't mix and match things. I would joke like this is people trying to make everybody happy, and what they've done is create the absolute worst execution I've ever seen, especially when we're trying to make people. We need better development. This is a perfect way to obliterate developmental. They've made a pyramid where at the lowest tier of the pyramid, you're not even playing the same game.
Yep.
Who thought of this?
My issue, and like, here's the thing. Like, I get it. So beta comes out. They have the alpha. Beta come out. Closed beta. That's fine. So, but it's like there's kind of some mixed signals as far as beta access goes. If you ask me, a little bit. Because we're calling it a closed beta, which normally it's like, oh, we have a limited number of like keys that we're trying to, our servers aren't, but they're kind of, it seems like they're running them on the same servers so they can handle large player that. So it's closed, right? But then like on that beta key day where you could watch streams, I mean, God, imagine how many people were watching.
They were advertising that 1,500 keys per hour. They were
for the Overwatch
how many they could get.
I was like thousands and thousands and thousands. So you're telling me you can't offer that to like why again? So my guess, my thing is you call it a closed beta. You give out, I don't know how many they gave out on Wednesday last week between like again XQC, Pokimane, friggin' all the regular creators. They gave out probably tens of thousands for people who just watched 4 hours. Then over the weekend, 1,500 per hour. I don't know if it was all weekend or during certain matches. Regardless, that's thousands and thousands. So in a week, you gave out tens of thousands of keys.
Yeah, in addition, can't handle their league.
In addition, to people who already signed up and got through the regular process. So you have 10, probably close to 40, 50, 60, 70,000 players anyway. So I guess my thing is at this point, why not just call it an open beta? And allow access. I know they're probably gonna have to take it offline for a week and so here to add new stuff, but I'm like, just call it an open beta and let the open division start practicing and playing and scrimming on the open beta.
How can we get new? You remember I talked about the pick up and play has kind of been lost a little bit. How can we find a way to open up access for people who are going to be the next round of players, or at least the next round of casual fans, people engaged with the game? If you're making their kind of entry point for even their beer league, their buddies, their friends, they can't even go into open division and have a kickabout. They can't go in and just kind of have fun in this game. I mean, and you know, the league's talked about this. There's the division right now, right? Because this stuff is run by the publishing side, not by the league side, right? We couldn't get LAN centers can't get keys. You know, we were doing like watch parties in New York. You think Waypoint could get keys? They're still asking. How is it that the first LAN center that ever hosted an in-person watch party in the league can't even get keys? Like, you would think if you're hosting localized events, the first place that ever did events in the entire league, Overwatch League sent in a film crew to Waypoint to see Gino and the crew. Okay, they do events there, and they won't even allow that to build. And exclusivity, so like Jay's got a good point. It goes, because exclusivity builds hype, and it allows for people to feel part of it by being closed off. More so, open would allow everyone in, and the drop-off would probably be more. Oh, you got to bring this. Jay, I love you. More so, Open would allow everyone in, and the drop off would probably be more than they'd prefer when people realize they don't prefer what is being offered. I think, again, this is me putting on my operations hat. I think Jay's onto something, because
I think the exclusivity. I think the exclusivity thing is 100% true. I don't agree with the thing that they won't prefer what they're being offered, because I don't know. I do think it is an improvement. I do like the path that they're going. I like 5v5. I like the.
But you're like a tank, though. You're not a support. It sucks, man. When you're coming in, and
I imagine
structure. Yeah. No, but my whole thing though is, in the end, the whole vision, and this is where Plex said it already. There's weird inconsistencies in communication. It seems like the rules around could have just been easily explained. This is a very easy a problem to solve. The entire vision of Open Division, 2 contenders, right? And I'm not going to get into the relegation crap, but the whole point was, you could come in and you start playing with a small beer league team, and through practice and through diligence, and you got to go through some hardships, and you'll find a way. You're going to have good teams and bad teams, but eventually you could qualify from that Open Division, and you could make it into contenders.
Yeah, I mean,
this no longer exists. The point of a pyramid is anybody can make it. Yeah, you can be Swansea. You know what I mean?
Well, a prime example of what you mean is Clockwork Vendetta.
Oh my God! Exactly.
They one-tricked their composition all the way to contenders with no coach, and literally they were a bunch of one-tricks. They played Orisa Hogg, Torbjorn May, and what was it? It was Anna Zen, and the Anna player would flex over to Widowmaker as needs be, and they did this during the GOATS era, and they caught the imagination of so many people because they were a complete amateur team.
I know.
Going against Paris Eternal Academy, they went up against so many academy teams, and in some cases beat them, one-tricking the style. And it feels like if you're doing this, in a way, you're losing that magic.
Yeah, and they've given everybody, it's like saying, well, do you want chicken, or I don't know, do you want a chocolate sundae? And I'm like, well, let's split the difference. We're gonna just take that chicken and shove it in the sundae. Oh, there, God. Now everybody's happy. I'm like, this is honestly, and I don't say this lightly, because I've lived through that contenders run. We got dropped back down to OD at one point at Revival, and we had to fight our way through. Now, if you told us that when we go back to Open Division at all, it's hard enough to keep players. It's hard enough. We have no money, right? I always joke about Revival. We were good at what we did. We were honest, and my God, were we dirt poor. We had none of the money. We had, shout out to Vitamin for helping us through so much, and shout out to Advanced and our sponsors. They helped us as much as they could.
Quick shout out, and I want to put this out. I mean, it's been out there, but can we quick shout out to Vite Ramen just for all the shit they do for the T2 and T3 events and everything, dude. I didn't know a whole ton about him between meeting Richard, who we pissed off. Apparently, he's running away. No, I'm kidding. No, but seriously, I've met a lot of people who run and do work on tier 2. There you go. Tier 2, tier 3 events, because there's so little you can do in the Overwatch League system on the independent level. It's I said, it's so controlled. There's so many limits and everything, and it's so hard. But like I said, after meeting people like Richard, meeting people like Chase, who put on these events at these levels, I know, is it Tim?
Tim.
Yeah, dude, he takes money out of his own pocket and is let's run this event. Let's sponsor this event. Let's have this charity event. So I don't know. Just I want to put all this I know we're getting spicy here, but let's throw out some positivity.
No, let's be spicy.
Well, this is the thing though. The entire system is built on the backs of people who are going either on a dream or knowing that they will never get a quote unquote return. Tim and the Vitamin folks helped us out at Revival, helped us actually pay for players. I never got $1. We put everything into the roster because we said you cannot ask players to invest time without something, at least something. We didn't have a lot. You talk to Justin, Reprise. We gave every dollar we had to the team. Even our designers couldn't get paid because that was the volunteer aspect. It's not ideal, but none of us took anything. But what I'm saying is this entire culture is built off the concept of you can have a dream and you can achieve things when lightning strikes. You can go and you can do amazing things with you or your team or whatever it is, and you can make your way up.
Yeah.
And what we've done with this system is basically, quite frankly, from an organizational perspective, been like, well, you know, if you're an open division, you're not even going to play the same game. That's how little we think of you. Oh, and by the way, when you do make it, you got to get rid of one player, only even potentially keep 3, which will, you know, definitely create a crazy ton of infighting. I mean, it's bad enough when everyone's like, it turns everything confrontational just to get your ass kicked. How is that living up to the basic principle of you can make it? And I have serious issues with that, because I've seen people sacrifice a lot just to try to make it to that spot in the league, you know, and that's what we're here to talk about, right? And I think if you start this off at the base, the way this is, it sends an atrocious message to anybody who's ever been involved and invested, because look at what it's become. Well, clearly nothing we did was meant anything, because look what they did with this. But also to people who are there, it's really taking advantage of people's hopes and dreams. And that really bugs me. It really, like, I get livid when I think about this, because ultimately the game, any game, starts out with youth, and you are misleading youth, and that is the worst thing you can do in a situation like this. I hope they fix this. I really hope they fix this.
You could say that about traditional sports where,
yeah,
I mean, over the years, the England football team, they've invested in the youth system big time. And look where we are now in terms of that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
and you know what? I will see from
have
another, like, there's a lot of issues in this league too, but like something I've really loved about the Halo Championship Series currently. Don't get the that's a whole another podcast. There's that game is riddled with issues too. But with their esports scene at every event, and even online event, they have a wide open pool up. You can have up to hundreds of teams. I think their limit is 490 is their sign up teams, 400 and something teams. And I've seen it, you know, obviously the pro level teams who are able to pay their players to play in scrim full time, obviously continually stay at the top for these things in these tournaments. But I have seen like this group of 4 dudes from Kansas or whatever who got together, went through the open tournament at Kansas City and ended up playing in the top, 28, whatever.
It's super cool when that happens.
And
it's amazing.
They get their, complexities, sees that and goes, oh shoot, we were thinking about a Halo roster and we pick up these guys. So there is more of that hope you're talking about, that idea of like, hey, you sign up for it's that simple. Sign up for this, play, do well. You legitimate have a shot to compete against some of the best. If you make it far enough, you're competing against Cloud9. You're competing against XSET.
That's why I don't get, why not just make Open Division its own thing? If it has to be an Overwatch 1, so be it. But you know what?
Its own, yes, I agree.
Make it its own thing and give it love and respect. Respect the game, respect the people that are there, and make it something more than what it's been in the past. That should be the goal. And I feel like they're just skipping that step because there's someone, whiteboarded in the boardroom saying, hey, here's a great idea, guys. Trust me, bro. Check this out. This is going to bring our worlds together. And I'm like, what it's actually going to do. And I can't demonstrably prove this will happen, but there's a lot of stress and a lot of infighting and a lot of frustration that comes from losing games. And do we really think that setting this up where, oh, by the way, you got to kick a couple people off your team, oh, that'll go really well? Here's what I would ask. You know what I'm going to be really curious about this, that you must retain. That means open division teams for the first time have to be like, there's a team owner who makes the decision. It's going to be like people fighting over lottery tickets because oh, I signed on for the weekly lottery pool. Well, you weren't there this week, so you're out. Do they really think people aren't going to fight over it? And that maybe that's what it gets me so really upset about this. It's going to create such crappy conflict with so many people. It's not going to end well.
No, I agree with that. I mean, you're treating amateur, open, people, you said, people with a dream to run your ship like an owl team or like a pro
but
team.
Just remember, they're against bullying and toxic behavior and culture, but this is what they're going to give to the youngest and most inexperienced people coming into this game system.
Yeah. So there are some definite flaws there, and we say this shit because we like the game and we want to see people having opportunities here.
Yeah.
So, like, again,
we're
getting
like,
spicy
because you look at Aspire, man.
Yeah.
I've seen him since we recruited him on Revival, right? Like, and then, you know, I've seen him kind of go, and then he signed with Toronto. He goes to Vancouver. This is awesome. That is the story for me. I see that, and I'm like, this is incredible. Great person, good head on his shoulders, great skill, works hard, has been through good times and bad times, and they make it. And look, this is what people will always try to romanticize as the esports meritocracy, but I do like these things happen. Every player right now has kind of gone through that. We don't have like the you can't money your way through a D1 school and a family paying for a new medical building, and that's why you got on the team kind of thing. It's not like that yet. And we at least have to. I just hope that, like, they can't even pantomime this right now. And I'm like, look, I get it. There's a lot of turmoil. We got to be realistic too. There's been a tremendous amount of staffing changes. There's a tremendous amount of realities. There is another reality that we don't touch here, which is that, you know, Blizzard went through some things, you know, needless to say. Yeah. But I do know that they are trying very hard to live up to, you know, the folks I've spoken to in the league are working really hard. I know they're very dedicated, and they have a vested interest, and they give a crap about trying to make the space a little bit more functional in a healthy way. And I see this, and I guess that's another reason I get annoyed, because I've had those talks with league staff. I know what they're trying to do, and this just shoots them in the back. It just they've been the struggles they go through, like, as you can imagine, it's corporate stuff. Everyone says they want to help, but they're going uphill, and this just sets them back, and that's such a bummer.
Yeah. So, I mean, here's hoping, maybe there's a correction ahead of all that, but we will see. But regardless, we're kind of coming towards the end here. We do have another week of league play coming up. So we have, and we don't even know, because our co-host here, Plex, has asked us to allow him. I have the schedule in front of us. Allow him to pick our match of the week this week that we will wager on, if you will.
Yeah.
And so Plex, what do you want to look at this weekend?
Okay, so it's going to be easy for me to say a Mayhem match.
Okay.
I'm not going down that route. I'm going to say night 1, San Francisco Shock versus the Houston Outlaws. Because we're going to see two teams that like to play aggressive Overwatch going head to head. You've got the perfect record of the Shock versus the Dante Doom tank, which to me has a very interesting setup. Can Outlaws bounce back, or will Shock still win by playing Krusty Watch, as I like to call it?
Sure.
Like that, create the overload and things like that. So that's the match I decided to pick.
Okay.
And I'll follow my sword if needs be.
Okay.
Damn it.
Sorry, Richard. I could have gone with the Toronto game.
Right.
No, this is a tough one. See, this is why I love having you on, because it's like all I'll do is just, like, you know, blow a lot of hot air everywhere and, you know, yell at things.
Richard, at least I didn't pick a Vancouver game.
Vancouver. Well, they're playing New York, and that's one of the times I'd say they're gonna get dusted by by the Burrows. They don't stand a chance. It'll be a beautiful catastrophe for Vancouver.
Yeah. Okay, so I may as well start this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say 3-2 Shock. But Houston, but my thought is it's gonna be Shock will go 2-0 up. Houston will then tie it up, and then Shock will win in the last map. Because it's going to be that close, in my opinion.
Okay, cool. I love that you have the storyline built, man. That's awesome.
That's just my thought process.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Who do you think I am? Michael P.S. Hayes?
You don't want to be that.
Yeah, you don't want to be that.
Yeah. Too outlandish.
Yeah. All right, so Plex is locked in at 3-2 Shock.
Okay.
All right, Richard, you go. What do you?
I'm at 3-1 Shock. I think Shock have the mechanical and strategic know-how to. After I saw the end of the Toronto-Houston game, we've seen how you can exploit Houston's reliance on Doom, like their Doom play. I think Shock will figure this out after a map, so I think it'll go 3-1 Shock.
Okay. So for me, Yeah, all the logic based on their performance makes me want to put Shock in for a win. I do want us all to have different score lines though, and because that's one of the things I think is going to make this whole like wager thing work better. We should all have to pick different score lines. So Plex has the 3-2, you have the 3-1, and I can't in good conscience book a 3-0. Like I don't believe it's going to be a 3-0. So like I'm going to be the believer. Screw it. Throw it. I'm going to go 3-2 Houston.
Oh, so you and Plex are going to be watching this game like hawks.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's going to be great.
Yes, absolutely. So,
and one of us will be laughing at the other.
Oh yeah, and you know what? And like, and I'm like I said, I acknowledge the idea that like on paper and based on performance, San Francisco has a statistically much higher chance, I think, of pulling this one out. But I've seen Houston already pull the miracle. I think it can happen. So, like I said, I can't in good conscience give the 3-0. Yeah. So I'm just gonna flip it. I think it'll be competitive regardless.
Because it will be a close run thing either way. I feel.
I think it could be too.
I think it's all going to realistically come down to the support lines and can you keep them up?
Yes.
So we've seen what Lyris could do. We've seen what Violet could do. We've seen both support lines pull off really big plays.
Yes.
So it's a question of who can keep theirs up so that they can support their tank.
Yes.
So I think that's going to be the key factor, in my opinion.
110%. So, all right, match of the week. It'll be the Friday opening day of the weekend. That is a 3:30 p.m. Eastern game, U.S. Eastern time. So, if you folks, obviously we have the whole schedule here. There's some other spicy matches. I mean, Rich already talked about New York and Vancouver, which I agree with you. We have Glads and Dallas, which will be an interesting clash of two kind of top-rated teams. Houston and Florida will be interesting to see as well.
That'll be fun.
Paris and Toronto. There you go.
Yeah, those. I think that'll be an interesting one because they're very evenly matched, I feel, in terms of power level.
Yes, I agree.
I think so too. So it'll be interesting. But
and then there's Excelsior and the Titans. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
Yep, that's what I'm saying.
I wonder who you'll be supporting, Richard.
Yeah, gee.
Yeah.
Gee, I wonder. Yeah. But that also brings us to
here we go.
Last week.
Punishments.
So yeah, last week we all picked we did the Battle for Texas as our match of the week. We all picked Dallas to win in varying degrees from 3-2 to 3-1 to 3-0. And we were all wrong.
Just a little bit wrong.
Just a little bit.
We were all wrong.
And so we're all getting
we botched the first week on a podcast called OverBOTCH.
Oh yeah. How the poetic justice is off the charts. Yeah. So I figured three of us were wrong. We're going to do three different punishments based on our situations. So Plex, we're going to do this simultaneously. This will be the weirdest cacophony of sound and visuals if you're watching live or listening.
Heaven help the audio listeners.
Plex is going to sing a song. He's already chosen. I will not spoil it.
I'm going to do
part of it. Yeah. This will be like 30 seconds or whatever. We're not going to like sit here for 10 minutes doing weird shit.
Or
we could
get weirder.
So Plex is going to sing a song. Weird. Richard's going to dance. Give me the goofiest white guy dance you can think of.
Oh God, that's going to put me off.
And I'm going to eat. You guys know from my stream, I have the spicy Fiery 5 Bean Boozled. And if you think, oh, like it's candy, no, these things are legit and they suck.
Yeah. So it is spicy. Like it's actually.
Oh my God, dude.
Okay. Just to clarify, just so I understand here, Matt.
Yeah.
What sort of peppers do they use for those things?
So we have there sriracha from the lowest, jalapeno, cayenne, habanero, and then they have a Carolina Reaper one.
Wow.
Oh God.
Are you gonna So you're gonna eat? Wait, how many beans are in this bag?
In this bag, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's like 7 beans in this little.
But there's 5 peppers. I feel like you have to eat 5 beans to make sure you get a good spread of the peppers.
I'll die. I will pass away. Yeah. If you watch any of my like charity streams where I've done this stuff, like trust me, I'm telling you, this individual one will wipe me off the planet.
Okay,
I do not handle spice
live.
I love it.
Please,
I love it.
Can we get some prayers for Matt?
Yeah,
because he's probably going to suffer the most out of all.
Yeah. All right, so we're gonna do it like
you got to start us with a
30, 40 seconds in 5, 4, 3, 2.
She slept a summer by my side.
Oh, God.
She filled my days with endless wonder.
Oh, God. Oh, God.
That's not helping, Matt. She took my childhood in her stride, but she was gone when autumn came.
Oh.
I think I got off lightly compared to you clowns.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Holy Matt, are you all right, man?
Okay.
Okay.
In all seriousness, Matt, go get a glass of milk or something like that. Go right now.
I got my Greek yogurt.
Oh, thank God for that.
Your head has changed color, man.
He's got
Oh my God.
audio listeners. He's got bright red.
Oh, wow. I
legit.
actually didn't realize those are actually spicy. I thought they were like spice flavor.
That's what I was saying. I'm like, anybody's like, oh,
he's got the hiccups now.
yeah.
That's brilliant. Dies before Tuesday night stream. We don't have time for that.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a good time to wrap it up, isn't it? On that note.
Yeah. Oh my God. Thank God it was there. Holy.
I was going to say, thank God you had that.
Yeah. Wow. What do you know which pepper that was?
I think that was a dark red one. So I think it might have been the Reaper.
Wow. Because I've tried
either
a bit
the Reaper
of those,
or the Cayenne.
Yeah, because I had one of those chips once and I was like, it's just hot. It's just like unpleasant.
Those
the one chip challenge, yeah.
Yeah. Those ghost pepper chips or whatever. Oh, they're awful.
Yeah.
Awful.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
Somehow survived.
Somehow.
All right. Oh, we will do more punishments for who's wrong next week. Again, remember the game will be where what am I? It is Houston and the Shock on Friday.
Yeah.
So everybody out there in the OverBOTCH community, make sure you're watching that one as well. Watch all the games so you can catch up. But we will be back here next week, same time, same channel, all that deals. And if you haven't hit usual business, you haven't hit that like or subscribe button on any of the YouTube or any podcast platform. We had most of our listens from Spotify this week, so thank you very much for coming out. Leave a comment. It really helps with everything like that. Same thing with the YouTube channel and stuff. Comments, everything drives those algorithms forward. So appreciate you helping us out on this one.
Yeah.
Until next time, everybody, for Richard the Great Root Bear, for Pleximatic, and for the Drama King, myself, have a good one. We will see you next week.
Pray for Matt.